This means the exercise only continues working if it continues feeling slightly effortful. Not exhausting, slightly effortful. That mild resistance is the signal that new connections are forming. When it starts feeling easy, it is time to change the variable. Here is the 8-week progression I use with my patients. Weeks 1 to 2, foundation. Simple, concrete categories. Australian animals one morning, native plants the next, sports, foods, famous Australians. The movement and the breathing should feel natural by the end of week 2. The categories should feel moderately easy. That is correct for this phase. You are building the habit first, the challenge second. Weeks 3 to 4, alphabetical retrieval. Choose a letter. Name anything beginning with that letter. A, Adelaide, avocado, accountant, Antarctica. This forces the hippocampus to search associatively rather than categorically, a different retrieval pathway, which means new connections on top of existing ones. Weeks 5 to 6, countdown pressure. While continuing the arm movements and breathing, count backward from 100 in threes. 100, 97, 94, 91, 88. When you lose track, and you will, breathe, find the last number you remember, and continue. Do not restart from 100. The recovery from losing track is itself valuable. It requires the prefrontal cortex to hold 2 states simultaneously. Weeks 7 to 8, personal memory retrieval. This is the most powerful phase and the most underused. While moving, actively try to recall specific people from your past, old workmates, schoolmates, neighbours from a house you lived in decades ago, their names, their faces, a specific conversation. This targets the deepest memory pathways, the oldest neural connections, and the effort of reaching for them is extraordinarily effective consolidation work. Mistake 1. Rushing the breathing. If your arms are moving quickly and your breathing is shallow, you have lost part 1 entirely. You are simply waving your arms. Slower is not easier. Slower is the point. Mistake 2. Distractions. Television on in the background. Phone within reach. Someone talking to you. That 60 seconds requires your complete attention. A divided mind produces divided results. This is the 1 minute in your day that belongs entirely to your brain. Mistake 3. Inconsistency. 3 days on, a week off. Repeat. The brain does not consolidate through irregular effort. It consolidates through repetition. The exercise needs an anchor, something you already do every single morning. For most of my patients, it is the kettle. You put the kettle on, you do your 60 seconds, you pour your tea. Unmovable. Every day. And one final thing about consistency that I want you to carry with you. The mornings you least feel like doing this exercise, the rough nights, the foggy mornings, the days when the static feels loudest, those are the mornings it matters most. Your brain sends the signal, not today, precisely when it is most in need of the activation. Do not negotiate with that signal. Put the kettle on. 3 things that cost you nothing but multiply the results significantly. 1. Water first. Your brain is approximately 75% water. Mild dehydration, the kind everyone wakes with, measurably slows neural transmission. Drink a full glass of water before the exercise, not after, before. You are giving your neurons the medium they need to fire cleanly. 2. Natural light. If you can sit near a window for your 60 seconds, do it. Morning natural light triggers a cortisol awakening response that amplifies the neurochemical priming we discussed. It also regulates your circadian rhythm, which has a direct, well-documented relationship with the quality of memory consolidation during sleep. The light is not incidental. It is part of the medicine. 3. Teach it. Find one person, your partner, a friend, a neighbour, and show them this exercise. Explain why it works. Teaching forces your brain to organise information at a deeper level than receiving it does. Your encoding is stronger. Your consistency improves. And you now have someone whose progress matters to you, which is one of the most powerful motivators neuroscience has ever identified. Let me bring this together. We started with the morning habit, the passive consumption window, that suppresses your brain's natural activation state before the day has even begun. We dismantled the myth that cognitive decline is inevitable and replaced it with the documented reality of neuroplasticity, your brain's lifelong capacity to build new connections. We met Graham and the static that cleared, and Patricia and the lesson about commitment coming before conviction. We walked through the science, the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, the cerebellum, and why dual task activation creates conditions for genuine neural growth. We did the exercise together. And we built an 8-week progression, so it keeps working as your brain adapts. Now, here is what I want from you. Not a lifestyle overhaul, not a dramatic commitment, just one thing. Tomorrow morning, before your phone, before the television, put the kettle on and do 60 seconds. Then come back here and write RESET in the comments. Tell me where you are watching from. Tell me what you noticed, even something small. Your experience is exactly what someone else sitting on the fence right now needs to read. If you want more practical, science-grounded tools for keeping your mind sharp as you get older, hit subscribe. New videos every day. All of it built around the same principle. Your brain deserves better than resignation. I am Dr. Luca. Thank you for this time. Now go put that kettle on. This morning, you probably did something that damaged your memory. And the worst part? You thought it was completely harmless. Not smoking, not alcohol, not even stress. Something far more ordinary. Something sitting on your bedside table right now. Something millions of Australians over 60 do within the first 60 seconds of opening their eyes, before they've said good morning to anyone, before they've had a sip of water, before their brain has even fully woken up. And I know what you're thinking. That can't be me. I'm careful about my health. I've heard that exact sentence from a retired school teacher in Brisbane who couldn't remember her students' names anymore. From a former engineer in Adelaide who had to write down where he parked every single time. From a grandmother in Melbourne who started forgetting the middle of sentences and quietly began to wonder if something was very wrong. Every single one of them was doing this habit, every morning, without question. Here's what they described to me before we figured out what was happening. The word that's right there. You can almost feel it on the tip of your tongue, but it simply won't come out. You wait, you reach for it, it's gone. Walking into the kitchen, stopping dead at the bench, and standing there with your mind completely blank. You know you came in for something. You just can't think what. Reading the same paragraph twice, 3 times, and still not being able to hold the meaning in your head long enough to connect it to the next one. And the one that frightens people most? Forgetting, even for just a second, the name of someone you love, your grandchild, your partner, someone whose name you have said thousands of times. If any of those moments sound familiar, please take a breath. What I am about to tell you is not a diagnosis. It is not a confirmation of your worst fear. It is in fact the opposite. My name is Dr. Luca. I specialise in brain health for patients over 60, and I have spent years working with men and women who came to me convinced their mind was failing them, only to discover that what they were experiencing was not inevitable decline, it was damage. Damage caused by specific reversible habits, habits that can be changed. In this video, I am going to show you exactly which morning habit is quietly working against your brain every single day. I am going to explain the neuroscience behind why it causes damage, and I am going to give you a 60-second daily exercise, the same one I use with my own patients here in Australia, that can begin to reverse that damage starting today. No equipment, no pills, no gym. Just 60 seconds and the willingness to understand what your brain actually needs. Stay with me, because if you only watch one video about your brain this year, I want it to be this one. Let me start with the lie, the one repeated at family dinners, at the GP's waiting room. even between well-meaning friends over a cup of tea. You're just getting older. It's normal. There's nothing you can do about it. I want to be very direct with you. That statement is not just inaccurate, it is harmful. Because the moment a person accepts that their decline is inevitable, they stop fighting it. They stop challenging their brain. They resign. And that resignation, that quiet giving up, accelerates the very process they are afraid of. I have watched it happen, and it is one of the most preventable tragedies I encounter in my work. Here is what the science actually says. Research supported by Dementia Australia and consistent with guidelines from Healthdirect Australia confirms that the human brain retains the capacity to form entirely new neural connections well into our 80s and beyond. The technical term for this is neuroplasticity, and it is not a motivational concept. It is one of the most robustly documented findings in modern neuroscience, observable on brain scans, measurable in cognitive testing, reproducible across study after study. But here is the critical part that rarely gets explained properly. Neuroplasticity does not happen automatically. It requires specific conditions and certain everyday habits, habits that feel completely innocent, even restful, actively suppress those conditions. So, the morning habit. Think about the first 20 minutes after you wake up tomorrow morning. For most people over 60, it looks something like this. The alarm goes off, or you simply wake naturally. And within the first minute, sometimes within the first 30 seconds, the hand reaches out to the phone, scrolling through news, checking messages, looking at what happened overnight. Or perhaps the television goes on, the morning news playing in the background while you lie there, half awake, absorbing whatever comes at you. Or perhaps nothing so active, just lying there, thoughts drifting, mind wandering without direction or purpose. I call all three of these the same thing, passive consumption mode. And for a brain over 60, starting the day in passive consumption mode is one of the most consistently damaging patterns I see. Here is the mechanism, and I want you to understand this properly, because understanding it changes behaviour in a way that simply being told phones are bad never does. Your brain has what researchers call a cortisol awakening response. In the first 20 to 30 minutes after waking, your cortisol levels rise naturally. Not in a harmful way, but in a way specifically designed to prime your brain for learning, focus, and the consolidation of memory from the night before. Think of it as your brain's daily ignition sequence, the engine warming up before you drive. This cortisol window is time sensitive. It peaks and then falls. And what you do during that window, in those first 20 to 30 minutes, either works with that ignition sequence or against it. When you spend that window passively scrolling or watching television or letting your mind drift without engagement, you suppress the cortisol response before it can complete its job. You flatten the spike. You miss the window. Over days and weeks and months of doing this, the neural pathways responsible for focused attention and active memory retrieval become progressively less active. Not destroyed, the brain doesn't work that way, but weakened, slower, less efficient. And weakened pathways produce exactly the symptoms I described at the beginning of this video. The words that won't come, the blank moments in doorways, the names that slip away. A landmark study examining cognitive habits in adults over 65 found that those who engaged in passive screen consumption within the first 30 minutes of waking showed measurably slower memory retrieval speeds compared to those who began the day with even minimal active cognitive engagement. Not hours of screen time, the first 30 minutes. That is the window, and most of us have been spending it in exactly the wrong way. Now, before you feel guilty, and I can already sense some of you going there, this is not about blame. Almost no one knows this. It is not taught. It is not discussed. The habit of reaching for the phone in the morning feels completely natural because it has become completely normal. But normal and harmless are not the same thing. And once you understand the mechanism, you have power over it. That power starts with 60 seconds. And before I show you exactly how to use them, I want to tell you about a patient of mine. Because data changes minds, but stories change behaviour. Before I continue, if this is already landing for you, write one word in the comments right now. Reset. Just that one word. It tells me you are ready to try this today. I read every single one. His name was Graham, 67 years old, retired electrician from regional Victoria, married 41 years, 2 adult children, 3 grandchildren he absolutely lived for. Graham came to see me not because he was frightened, he was far too proud for that. He came because his wife Margaret had quietly insisted. She had noticed things accumulating over the previous year that he had explained away one by one. When I spoke with Margaret privately, she described something I hear often. Not one dramatic event, a pattern of small erosions. He finishes other people's sentences now, she told me. Not because he is impatient. He was never impatient. It is because if he doesn't say the word the moment he thinks of it, it vanishes. 30 seconds later, it is completely gone. I watch him reach for it, and I can see it disappear from his face. Graham sat across from me with his arms crossed and gave me the look I have seen 1,000 times. The look that says, I am here because she made me come. Do not make this into something it is not. I asked him to walk me through a typical morning. He described waking around 6. Phone straight away. News, weather, a look at the cricket scores if there had been a match overnight. Television on in the kitchen while he made breakfast. He described it as simply how mornings worked. I asked him one question. When is the last time you asked your brain to do something genuinely difficult before 9 in the morning? He sat with that for a long moment. Can't remember, he said. And then he paused, and we both understood the weight of that answer. I did not give Graham a prescription. I gave him 60 seconds. I showed him the exercise, the same one I am about to show you, and I gave him one rule. Do it every morning before you touch the phone, before the television, before anything except water. He looked deeply unimpressed. 6 weeks later, he returned. Margaret came with him. But this time her posture was different. She was smiling before she sat down. He told our granddaughter a story last week, she said. The whole thing, start to finish. Names, dates, the exact dialogue. Details I had forgotten myself. I looked at him and genuinely didn't know where it had come from. Graham was still doing the crossed arms thing. But there was something different in his eyes, a steadiness that had not been there before. I still think it is a bit silly, he said, waving my arms around before breakfast, but I have done it every morning, and something has shifted. I cannot explain it precisely. It is like the static has cleared a little. The static has cleared. I've thought about that phrase many times since, because that is exactly what recovering neuroplasticity feels like from the inside. Not a dramatic transformation, not a sudden return of something lost, a quieting of interference, a sharpening of signal. Now, I want to tell you about someone who did not follow through, because this is equally important. Her name was Patricia, 71, retired nurse from Sydney's northern suburbs, someone who, by her own description, knew more about brain health than most. She attended the same appointment as Graham, essentially, heard the same explanation, received the same exercise. But Patricia was sceptical in a different way than Graham. She did not think the exercise was silly. She thought it was too simple. Surely, she told me, if this worked, everyone would know about it. She tried it for 4 days, felt nothing dramatic, stopped. When I saw her 8 months later, the erosion had continued. More word-finding failures, more lost threads mid-conversation, more of that particular frustration that comes when you know your mind used to work better than this. And she said something I want you to remember. I think I was waiting to feel convinced before I committed, but the conviction only comes after the commitment. I had it backwards. The conviction only comes after the commitment. That is perhaps the most important sentence in this entire video. Your brain will not give you proof before you begin. It gives you proof through beginning. Graham committed without conviction. Patricia waited for conviction before committing. The outcomes were completely different. I am telling you both stories because I want you to go into this exercise with your eyes open. It will feel ordinary at first. It may feel slightly silly. That is not a sign it is not working. That is exactly what working feels like in the early days. So, let me now show you exactly how it works, and more importantly, why it works. Because understanding the mechanism is what separates the Grahams from the Patricias. Your brain is not a single structure that either works or doesn't. It is a network of specialised regions that are in constant communication with each other. And the quality of that communication, the speed, the clarity, the reliability of signals passing between regions, is what determines how sharp your memory feels day to day. The regions most relevant to what we are talking about are three. The hippocampus, your brain's filing and retrieval system. This is where new memories are encoded and where older memories are indexed for recall. When people describe that tip of the tongue feeling, what they are experiencing is the hippocampus sending out a retrieval signal that is not strong enough to complete the connection. The prefrontal cortex, the region behind your forehead responsible for working memory, focused attention, and the ability to hold multiple pieces of information in mind simultaneously. When you lose the thread of a sentence midway through or forget what you went into a room for, this is the region under strain. And the cerebellum, commonly thought of as purely a movement coordinator, but increasingly understood by neuroscientists to play a significant role in cognitive processing speed. The cerebellum and the prefrontal cortex have direct communication pathways. When you engage your cerebellum through coordinated physical movement, you are simultaneously priming your prefrontal cortex. This is the key insight behind the exercise I am about to show you. Most daily activities activate these regions in isolation. Watching television is primarily passive visual processing. Reading is sequential left hemisphere work. Even conversation, as valuable as it is, tends to draw on well-established pathways rather than building new ones. To genuinely stimulate neuroplasticity, to actually build new connections rather than simply maintain existing ones, you need what neuroscientists call dual task activation, engaging your motor system and your cognitive system simultaneously under conditions of mild challenge. When both systems are active at the same time, the different brain regions are forced into communication with each other. That cross-network firing is what creates new pathways, new cable, running alongside the old. Graham was an electrician for 40 years, so I explained it to him in terms he understood immediately. Old wiring does not have to be ripped out. If a room has been running dim for years, not broken, just dim, you do not gut the walls. You run new cable alongside the old. You add capacity. You increase what the circuit can handle. That is what this exercise does. You are not fighting aging. You are not trying to restore something lost. You are adding new cable to a system that is still fundamentally sound. And there is one more layer to this that I want to make sure you understand, because it connects directly to something Dementia Australia has emphasised in their public health guidance. Memory consolidation, the process by which your brain takes the experiences and information of the day and converts them into lasting memories, does not happen while you are awake. It happens during sleep, specifically during the deep, slow-wave sleep cycles that typically occur in the first half of the night. For this process to work properly, your brain needs two things: sufficient sleep duration and sufficient neural activity during the day to give it something worth consolidating. A brain that has spent the day in passive consumption mode, minimal challenge, minimal active retrieval, minimal cross-network firing, arrives at sleep with very little to consolidate. The filing system runs, but the drawers are mostly empty. A brain that has been given even brief periods of genuine cognitive challenge, including a 60-second dual task exercise in the morning, gives the consolidation process real material to work with. The filing system has content. The connections made during the day get reinforced overnight. This is why the morning timing matters so much. You are not just priming your brain for the day ahead. You are setting up the consolidation work that happens while you sleep tonight. 1 minute in the morning, compounding overnight, every single day. Let me show you exactly how to do it. All right, this is the part I want you to actually do with me if you can. Find a comfortable chair. Sit toward the front edge, not slumped back into the cushions, but not rigid either. You want your spine naturally upright, your weight balanced. Feet flat on the floor, roughly hip width apart. Hands resting on your thighs. If you have significant shoulder pain or limited arm mobility, I will give you a modified version in a moment. But try the standard version first. Most people find it far more accessible than they expect. Close your eyes for just a moment. Take one slow breath in through your nose. Count to 4 silently and release it slowly through your mouth. Feel your shoulders drop. Good. Open your eyes. We are going to do this together. Part 1. Activation. First 30 seconds. The physical movement is simple. You are going to raise one arm slowly forward until it is parallel to the floor, straight out in front of you, and then bring it slowly back down to your thigh. That is the entire movement. No weights, no strain, no speed. The key, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is synchronizing the movement with your breathing. Right arm up, inhale slowly through your nose as you raise it. Count silently to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right arm down, exhale slowly through your mouth as you lower it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left arm up, inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left arm down, exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slow, steady, controlled. If you are moving quickly, you have lost the primary benefit of this phase. The slow, controlled movement combined with deep diaphragmatic breathing does two things simultaneously. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system, shifting you out of the low-grade stress state most of us wake into, and it significantly increases oxygenated blood flow to the brain. Your neurons are being fed exactly what they need to fire properly. The coordination aspect, alternating arms, maintaining rhythm, wakes up the cerebellum and begins the cross-network communication we discussed. You are warming the engine before we add load. Do that alternating movement for 30 seconds. Keep it slow, keep it steady. Good. Now, do not stop the arms. Part 2, the mental challenge. Final 30 seconds. Keep the arms moving. Keep the breathing synchronized. But now add this. While your body continues moving, your mind begins actively naming things in a category, out loud if you can. Quietly in your head if you must. Let's begin with something concrete and familiar. Australian animals. Kangaroo, wombat, koala, kookaburra, platypus, echidna. Keep going. Any Australian animal, bird, reptile, marine creature, anything. Name them steadily as your arms move. Do not rush. Do not panic if your mind goes blank. That blank moment is not failure. It is your brain reaching for a connection that does not yet have a clear pathway. That reaching is the exercise working. Breathe through it. The next word will come. The goal is not a perfect, unbroken list. The goal is active searching while your body is in motion. That is it. 60 seconds. 2 phases. 1 physical, 1 cognitive. Running simultaneously. Here is what is happening in your brain during those 60 seconds. Your cerebellum is managing the arm coordination. Your hippocampus is performing active retrieval. Your prefrontal cortex is managing attention across both tasks at once. The communication between all 3 regions, the cross-network firing, is creating exactly the conditions under which new neural pathways form. In 60 seconds, you have given your brain better conditions for neuroplasticity than most people give theirs in an entire passive morning. Modified version, for limited mobility. If raising your arms is uncomfortable due to shoulder pain, arthritis, or any other physical limitation, here is an equally effective modification. Instead of arm raises, place both hands flat on your thighs. Slowly tap your right hand, all 5 fingers, one at a time, while inhaling to a count of 4. Then tap your left hand while exhaling to a count of 4. Alternate for the first 30 seconds. For the second 30 seconds, continue the tapping and add the mental category naming exactly as described above. The cross-network activation is identical. The cerebellum responds to any controlled, coordinated movement. It does not require large movements, only precise ones. The exercise is fully accessible to you, regardless of your physical condition. Here is the truth about neuroplasticity that most people are not told. Your brain is extraordinarily efficient at adaptation. Given the same stimulus repeatedly, it automates the response and stops building new pathways. The challenge disappears. The growth stops.